So we just celebrated Easter, for those of you who celebrate Easter. And for me, Easter is a beautiful story of hope. And it is a story of, leaning in right after Good Friday, leaning into that unknown period. And then Easter Day is that resurrection, and that experience reminds me, whether you celebrate or not, right? It is the reminder that all things have new beginnings. They might not look like what was, but there is something new and beautiful that is always born out of those things in our lives that feel like chaos, that feel like challenge, that feel like death and ending. So today we are going to create in our journals ways to lean in to hope, ways to consciously create new beginnings in our lives. So no matter what has been going on, whether this morning, last week, this past year, if it has been filled with chaos and turbulence and things that maybe feel like muck, like mud, today is a day to remember that beautiful things can grow out of that mud. And we're going to be consciously setting intention for those beautiful things to be created in our lives. So welcome to Creative Spirit Gathering. I'm your host, Jen Hutchins, founder of Unity Arts Ministry. Our ministry's mission is to inspire transformation and growth through creative exercises, like what we're doing together today in our art journals and spiritual practices. You can give online to support our ministry at unityartsministry.org. For those of you that are here in our Zoom room, I'm going to go ahead and pop that into the chat for you. And while you're over there taking a peek at the chat, I also invite you to say hello. Let people know where you're coming from today, and let us know that you are happy to be here and experience these new beginnings with us as well. And if you're watching this later, use the little comments, say hello. We do check those, and we love hearing from the community as well. So welcome, welcome. All right, I'm going to tell you, I've been sharing this image with you a little bit as we started off. This one is full of personal photos. Like literally, I went and took my photos off of the computer and I printed them out and used them in this one. This is sort of a different technique than I often do with collage, where I'll pull things from magazines. This one is full of very personal images. So I'm going to give you the what I did, why I did it, but also some techniques, some tips for how you could do this without using photos, because maybe you don't have access to a color printer at your home. But this was a really fun project that I did several years back. And really, it was all about intention setting on the page, because one of the things that I've experienced time and time again is this truth in my life, that the thoughts that I'm holding, the ideas that I'm holding, tend to then outpicture in my life. We've talked about this so many times in this group. That word synchronicity keeps coming up, right? When we are focusing on something and then we see it outpicture in our world, in our lives. Well, we can do that in so many different ways in our journal to set intention. And like I said, no matter what has been, no matter what has been going on around you, today is the day that you can say, I do not give that thing any power to dominate my life anymore. I am going to claim something new. I'm going to intentionally birth something new out of the muck that has been and allow it to grow forward into my life. All right, so there's actually a title for this process. I pulled it out of a book. It didn't have the pictures, but here's what it was. It's actually called A Wheel of Fortune. You know, like the show Wheel of Fortune, only it's a little bit different. This is a prosperity wheel of fortune. The idea came from Catherine Ponder, so shout out to Catherine in her books, The Laws of Prosperity. And what she talked about was the power of affirmation, the power of affirmation, of claiming our good. And she talks about this as goal setting in different areas of your life. So for me, when I did my Wheel of Fortune here, and I literally turned it into a wheel, she was not referring to the game show back in the day. But it was this idea of the different aspects of our life, right? The wholeness. So we call it the wheel, the wholeness of our being. Spiritual community, spiritual connection, relationships, our career, our passions. Now, you're here, so I'm going to say your creative path, right? Your health, all of these different aspects of being. So you can choose to focus on multiple things when you're looking at your wheel. And in this idea of fortune, your prosperity, your abundance, meaning not necessarily just a financial, handout, but the abundance, the knowing that there is a source providing for you always, and that we can tap into that. And that is a great sense of hope in our lives. When I created my Wheel of Fortune, inspired by the chapter, after reading it, I thought about travel, spiritual community, family relationships. At the time, I had multiple homes out of state that we had been renting and we were ready to sell. Some of you know my story with that. So I actually had some images of those on here with sold signs written on them. But for each one, right, I thought about these different areas. So you may want to choose 3 or 4 different areas of your life that you want to focus on. And then for each one, create an affirmation. This is a statement, positive statement of truth, of what it is that you are claiming. So, for example, under my spiritual community image, I said, I am divinely guided to the perfect spiritual community. So recognizing, claiming, I am guided into this. So as I'm claiming this forward, we could say, I am expressing my creativity in ways that inspire others. I am claiming my creative gifts, right? You see how for each one, I'm using an I am, a positive statement. I am healthy and strong. Now, as I said, I happen to use images of my own life because these were things that for me were really sort of inspiring, and I could outpicture them, right? When I see myself, smiling in the picture next to these houses with the big sold signs, it was like one more way of envisioning that power of imagination, envisioning these outcomes. But you could do this as simply a written exercise. You could do this with magazine collage. I know there are those of you that enjoy that process as well. You could do this with doodles, drawing little pictures underneath each one. The main idea is to have this sense of wholeness and the sense, again, that from whatever is, new things are being born, are blossoming into being in your life. Now, I chose this central image, which happened to be a sunset happening at Unity Village. And this was like my center point that I was fixating on, that all of these other things were coming from. And it says, divine intelligence guides my life. So again, an affirmation right in the middle from which all of these other things are coming forward. So this was my personal experience. May I let you know that both of those houses sold within a year of putting them on that page and then working with those affirmations. And not to say it happened because I put it on a page. It happened because I held to that truth and then followed, the inspiration. Okay, yeah, let's list it now. Let's do this, like taking the action steps. So for everything that we put out there and we say, hey, here's this seed that I want to grow from this mud. I'm planting this seed. We need to nurture it. We need to water it. We need to take action in our lives to then bring those things into being. How does this relate to creativity, and specifically the artist's way, this journey that we've begun at the beginning of this year and are working through? Well, if you were asking, in week 4, Julia Cameron writes that this process we are going through doing inside can open an inner door through which our creator helps and guides us. She says there's a special power in writing out the deal we're making with our creator. Again, this idea of affirmations. She said, I receive your good willingly and thy will be done are 2 short affirmations that when written in the morning can remind us to be open to increased good during the day. So even Miss Julia Cameron is promoting this idea of affirmation as part of our creative and spiritual lives. So whether you choose today to make your wheel of fortune a rounded experience, you choose to write a poem claiming you're good, or write a single affirmation and fill your page with bold oil pastels or paint smears. Whatever is on your mind today, I invite you to lean in to the creative process as it wants to express itself positively through you as you claim your wholeness of being. So we're going to take all of these ideas into a short meditation before we move into our journal practice. This is our time to sink in, to move from the busy, active mind that's taking all these things going, what am I going to do? How am I going to express that? What are the things that I want to focus on? And we're just going to sink into our heart space for a moment. So take a deep breath right where you are. Feel your body relax in your seat. Take another deep breath and release on the exhale. Imagine all of these ideas, all of these thoughts, every possibility for good that is unfolding in your mind right now. There are infinite possibilities, so many ideas. Imagine them all just dripping down into your heart, where they rest, where they find peace, so that as we emerge from our moment of silence here, you move with clarity into what is most important on your heart. So we breathe in, letting all the thoughts just drip down, be released, and center into the heart space as we take a couple of conscious breaths here, breathing in, breathing out, releasing into the silence. Feeling that breath gently guide you back as we take these ideas on the heart and we allow them to be expressed through our hands into our journals. So it is. Thank you for this time together. Thank you for this blessed, sacred, creative experience. Enjoy your process, everyone.